Welcome to Motorcycle Memories, Stories from the Road, honoring Gold Star families. Well, we headed back to Richmond, Indiana, and with the help of Mary Walker and the Wayne County Tourism Bureau, we set up a very special event to honor 4 local Gold Star families. Down in the historical Depot District, we all got together at the Firehouse Barbecue and Blues to meet one another and to share some memories of the loved ones that these Gold Star families had lost.
There's several people that I really would like to thank as well, and that's Mary Walker. All met her. So
not like I know you all.
she's been wonderful to put this together. And today our pilot for the biplane is Mike Williams up there. He flew in this morning, and then my helper Jordan came down today to help this weekend as well. And besides everybody here, Jordan is also a Gold Star family member.
That's right, our featured guest from Riding Low and Flying High, Mike Williams, flew in on his 1940 bi-wing to partake in this special event. You could even say that Mike and his bi-wing plane were the main attractions for the Gold Star family event. Now, thanks to Richmond's Model T Museum's Executive Director Susan Yeager and some of the members of the Model T Ford Club of America, we had arranged an escorted ride in original Ford Model Ts for all the Gold Star families. Susan shared a little history of the Model T Museum as well as the Model Ts themselves. Well, everyone picked which Model T they wanted to ride in, and it was time to head on down to Richmond's airport. How cool of Richmond's Fire Department to give the Gold Star families an escorted procession through town. Everyone was enjoying their Ford Model T ride, especially the Gold Star children. As we headed out of town on our way to the airport, I couldn't help but think how memorable of a day this was going to be for everyone. Well, our escorted procession arrived at the Richmond airport. Now, what were we going to be doing at the Richmond airport? I mentioned earlier that our featured guest, Mike Williams, had flown in with his 1940 Tiger Moth Biplane. Mike came and volunteered to give every one of the Gold Star family members a ride. For each one of them, this was going to be their first time flying in an open cockpit bi-wing plane. What an amazing gift for these Gold Star families. Thanks, Mike. In honoring and remembering the Gold Star families, Richmond's Mayor, Dave Snow, came to present a special proclamation to each of the family members.
My name is Jim Raish, and I'm with the Wayne County Convention and Tourism Bureau here in Richmond, and it's a pleasure to welcome everybody here today. We're here to honor the Gold Star mothers and the Gold Star families. The Gold Star Mothers organization was actually organized in 1928. On June the 4th, there were 25 mothers who met in Washington, D.C. The actual Gold Star mothers began during the First World War because they hung banners in the windows, but it wasn't organized until 1928. We are just very pleased to honor you today. Please join me now in welcoming the Mayor of Richmond, Dave Snow.
What a beautiful day we have today for this special occasion to honor not only those who have sacrificed so much for our country and our freedom, but to honor these tremendous families who gave them the love and support to fight for us and who lost so much in their sacrifice. It is my honor today to be here and to read this proclamation in honor of these Gold Star families and to present copies of these proclamations to you. Whereas the Gold Star family is a modern reference that comes from the service flag, which was first flown by families during World War I. The flag included a blue star for every immediate family member serving in the armed forces of the United States during any period of war or hostilities and the armed forces of the United States were engaged. And whereas if that loved one died, the family replaced the blue star with a gold star, Informing members of the community, the family paid the ultimate price in support of our land. And whereas the city of Richmond recognizes the gold star on a service flag as a symbol of those soldiers who have fallen in the line of duty protecting our freedom. And whereas we honor those members of our community who have lost a family member and made the ultimate sacrifice in service to our country. And whereas on this day, we remember our commitment to Gold Star families who carry on with pride and courage despite suffering such tragic loss.
As promised, there were bi-wing plane rides for everyone. First up was Marjorie, a 90-year-old Gold Star mother who lost her son in Vietnam. Even my friend and Gold Star family member, Jordan Davenport, was able to go flying with Mike. And boy, did Mike give Jordan an incredibly memorable ride. Everyone's spirits were soaring as they flew closer to the heavens and the loved ones they had lost. I want to introduce you to the Gold Star families as they honor and remember their heroes.
I would like to now call forward the family of Specialist Kari Duane Miller. His mother Marjorie is here, and sister Kathy.
Okay, I'm Marjorie Miller. I'm mother of Kari Miller, which was born November 23rd, 1947. Grew up to be a very active young man, little boy. He left a lot of memories, things that I remember did. But we never expect to lose a child. Parent never expect to lose one, but it happens that way. We had him 21 years. What he did, very kind person, very loving person, loved kids. What I remember before he left, we had one conversation. He was talking about going to Vietnam. Asked him questions. He said, Mom, if my dad can do it, I can too. He left the 31st of March, 69 from home, went to California, left there on April the 2nd for Vietnam. He was over there 4 months and 3 days or 6 days. But he was a nice, wonderful, and left us a lot of memories. We missed him very much.
My name is Kathy, and I'm Kari Miller's sister. There was only 2 of us, just the 2 kids. He was a good brother. When we were younger, elementary, the favorite things that we did was go to the roller skating rink. He was a very handsome guy. All the girls liked Kari. Everybody liked Kari, even the guys. He was just a good kid. We had good times. He was funny. He had a funny side to him too. But we did some ornery things. He probably thought I was a bratty little sister. We had some good times as we got older. And he graduated and went on to technical school. I got married. He was my best man in my wedding. Just a really good kid, good brother. We have special memories of him.
Hi, my name is Linda. I was Kari's girlfriend at the time that he went overseas. He was, in all of our eyes, next to perfect. He had a great sense of humor, very witty, very loving, very respectful of his family. We just had a good time, all the time. And of course, we still miss him today. It's been almost 50 years. And it's hard to believe, but we've always been together. We've always stayed close, and that's how I think helped all of us to somehow cope. You never get used to it, but he was sure special.
When was the last time you remember seeing him?
I guess the night he left, he come 2 weeks, well, everybody was sad. I read the draw like him. He said, if you're going to cry, Dad can take me. He didn't want his big cry, but he left the airport. And he went in his bedroom, took 4 drawers in the bottom, fixed his chest the way he wanted it before he left, and he's still that way. I never changed it. Then we took it to the airport, Dayton, and said goodbye to him there. He did call, after he got to California, he called and talked to me for just a few minutes. I said, call him. He said, no, that's the last time I'll talk to you. And that's the last time I talked.
Probably one of the last times we were together. At that time, he liked cars. And he had a red vet. And we had took a little trip and went down to Ohio, and we came back through Hamilton and stopped like at a burger chef, I think it was, or something like that. But I thought I was the king of the world riding with my brother in that red Vetz, and came back home, and that was parked in Dad's garage when he left to go to Vietnam. I remember just riding in this car with him.
Well, again, he was just all-American guy. We had some plans for the future, but of course they were not to be. But you never forget about him. He's always there in your heart and your mind. And you'll go someplace, you'll hear a song, it just brings it all back to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we all love him just as much as the day he left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would like to now call forward the family of Private First Class Jack Wayne Miller. I do want to recognize his brother Larry is here and his brother Jeff.
When we were younger, you know, Jack would always take, like one time I was playing basketball, my brother Jack, and we was up the gym and we were playing basketball, and this guy, he was an older guy, he was in Jack's class, he threw the basketball and hit me in the face. And of course, you know, I was probably 9, 10 maybe at the most. So, you know, it kind of made me tear up and cry a little bit, but mad more than anything. And Jack came over and let's just say he handled the situation, and that guy knew better than to ever throw a basketball at me again. But he was just an all-around nice guy. I mean, he was good to everybody and very funny. You know, so I just remember him, you know, being a brother that you could look up to, and, you know, he didn't ignore you or tell you to get lost, little kid, or anything like that, you know. So he was really, really good. But he was just super to be around. And I know, for me, I can remember, because I was, you know, there's only 3 years difference between us.
My memories of Jack are different because I was younger, and there's a lot of things I don't remember. But I remember, you know, he loved to build model cars, and he was real meticulous about it. You know, he would take the X-Acto knife and cut off the parts, and then he would paint the parts and put them together. And I remember one time he would let me sit in there and watch him do it, but I had to sit in this chair and be really quiet and still. But I can just remember, you know, I can remember that. I can remember him and Dad watching me when I was like a little kid. Mom worked second shift, and I can remember one time taking a bath that they thought this was the hilarious thing in the world. Was they would have me turn around backwards when I'd get out of the bathtub, and they would have my underwear ready to go, and then in the process of me turning around backwards, they would switch and put Mom's there, and then let me step backwards into it. And they just, him and Dad thought that was the funniest thing in the world, and I don't know why I remember that, but I do. And I just remember, you know, he was just a good brother, and I wish I'd known him more. You know, I know that. But like Larry said, I just remember that everybody, you know, said he was just such a great guy. But my memories are really incomplete. Pride. I guess that's what I remember, you know, feeling about him. After Jack got out of high school and stuff, I don't know if it was his first job or what, but anyway, Dad worked for the Wayne County Highway Department. He drove a road grader, and Jack got on there after high school and stuff, and I'm not sure whether he drove a dump truck. I'm sure he did it, you know, as one of his jobs there or whatever that summer or year he worked there. But anyway, when I was a little boy, he gave me this dump truck, and it's just something I've hung on to, and it means the world to me, you know. I mean, literally, and I usually take it to the wall, the traveling wall or something like that, you know, leave it. I've had faith in it, and it's always came back to me. Nobody's ever taken it and anything, but I don't know, it's just, you know, him and Dad both worked there for Wayne County, and it's something I've always held on to. And so I'm thinking this truck had to be like 1967 or so that when he gave it to me, 66. But it just means the world to me. I wouldn't take $1 million for it.
the very last time, I mean, that I seen him, that he was leaving for Vietnam is my mom and dad didn't want to go say goodbye at the airport because they, you know, they'd be crying and make a scene. So they said goodbye at the house in Fountain City. And then me, my sister, my Aunt Lynn, and Jack got in his car, and he drove and we just rode, but we went to Dayton and he caught a commercial flight there. And you know, they said goodbye at the Concourse thing there. But back then, they didn't have security. You could walk right out to the plane with a person, and had that ramp that went up into the plane, and I walked out there with him. And, you know, we was talking on the way, and, you know, being 16, I didn't realize that he, you know, might not come back. So I was just being real casual about it, and shook his hand, told him I loved him and stuff, and I said, well, I'll see you when you get back. And I never will forget this, he said, I don't think I'll be back. And he wasn't.
I don't remember the day that he left. One of my memories, ironically, of the times that he left was in this building here when he rode a train, you know, and I seen him. I remember he was in his uniform and everything, but I believe that was when he was getting ready to do his jungle training at Fort Polk before Vietnam. But that's really like the last memory I got of him.
I think he would have been a really good father. I think he'd have been a pretty good uncle.
Yeah, and I just, like Larry said, I just think that everybody should know that, you know, he was a good guy, and you know, he could have got out and not done this, you know. I believe he got accepted to Ball State, and I'm sure he could have probably not had to go to the Army and to the war and everything, but, you know, he did because he just thought that was the right thing to do. And I don't know, just everybody just, you know, even talk to his classmates and stuff now, you know, years later, it's still like the fact that he was just a great guy. And I'm just, you know, proud of him.
I would like to call now forward the family of Corporal Jonathan Allen Wallman. Jonathan's father is here, Alan, and Jonathan's sister, Felicia.
Well, my name's Alan Wallman. My son was Corporal Jonathan Wallman, who was killed December 10th, 2007 in Baia, Iraq. He was a handsome little boy. When people would come up and look at him in the cart when we were out shopping, they would walk up and look and say, well, I don't have to ask whether that's a boy or girl or not. That's all boy. And he was a very soft-hearted, loving kid. A couple of stories that go with that. When he was about 12 or 13 years old, we took him deer hunting. And I'd found a trail where a buck was coming through, and I sat him up on it, and I got back a ways. And we waited, and a little while, all of a sudden I heard a shot ring out from John's position. And a couple of minutes, about a second later, he was hollering, come on over. And I asked him, did you get him? And he says, yes. And I would go over there to see him and his deer, and lo and behold, here's this deer stretched out on the ground with my son sitting astraddle of it like he's going to ride it, and the thing's still breathing. And he was going to make sure it didn't get away if he had to ride it out of the woods. It wasn't going nowhere, it was his. Some of the funniest, though, come from the military. Apparently after hours they had a bar that the enlisted men could go to, and the officers. And in the service, you can imagine the generals are the 800-pound gorillas in the room. Well, John had more brass than a marching band. He had no problem walking up to a table full of generals and coin challenging them. I guess there's a tradition in the military that if you don't carry this coin and you're in a bar and somebody asks you to show it, if you can't produce it, you have to buy everybody around. And I guess the generals had got a kick out of this kid that had more chutzpah than perhaps sense, and had him sit with him have him sit with him a good bit. He was actually deciding at the time that he loved the camaraderie in the sense of being a part of something so much in the military that he was actually considering making it a career.
Yeah, everybody always said that he was my older brother. I'm like, no, that's my little brother. We would get mad at each other every now and then, and his mad face was the funniest thing you ever seen. He'd scrunch up his nose and I'd die laughing. Other things he would do when he was around town, if somebody was broke down at the side of the road, he would fix their cars. And if they were running out of gas, he'd go and he'd pay for it and bring gas back and give it to them and let them go on. He did that all over town.
Yeah, there were several people that acknowledged that at the calling. They were perfect strangers, and he had stopped them if he could help them and get them going, he would do it.
My favorite story was when we went to Prairie Creek and we went fishing for it was carp. And the fishing pole bent down in half. It goes, I was so mad because it about come back and smacked me. But it went around the pier, the fish did, and broke the line, so it come back and it about smacked me in the head. And I said, we're going to get that. And Johnny and I went in the water going after it because we were going to find it no matter what. And it didn't work out. Yeah, it was fun. He was always there for me and I was always there for him. You were 3 when he passed. I got a photo of him at home falling asleep with you on his stomach, which was cute. He loved you. He wanted to spend so much time with you. He wanted to get you chocolate and make you a mess and bring you back home to me.
The last time that we spoke, I remember watching as he went through the gate at the airport as he was leaving to go back to Iraq. And I stood there and I watched him all the way. Because something in me, I just knew that was the last time I was going to see him.
Yeah, I went with him to the airport to send him off. He wasn't happy because he was tired. He didn't want to go, so. I told him I loved him and sent him off. The night before was Avari's birthday, and that was literally his last night with us, and we celebrated her party, and he got to be with you. So as far as the happier side of things, that was his happy part of it.
He was one of these kind of people that if you cared for him a little, he'd probably care for you twice as much. He was definitely a people person. He looked at people like snowflakes and thought they were unique, and each one was different. He enjoyed learning about what every person had to offer as their personality, and he'd make a friend out of you if he could.
We would like to call up the family of Lance Corporal Leighton Bradley Crass. His mother is here today, Lynn Crass, his grandmother, Mary Ann, his brother, Devin, and his sister, Dusty.
Well, being part of a Gold Star family is not something you want to be on a list like that. But our family, the Crass family, is so proud of Leighton and his brother Devin for serving in the Marine Corps. And he, from 9/11, I think that triggered a lot of young men wanting to go into service. They were so outraged at what had happened in our country, because I think Leighton wanted to go immediately into the service. Of course, he was way too young, but he was my oldest grandson, and I miss him calling me, and even when he was in Iraq and places like that, he would call, "Hi, Grandma." I miss that. Miss his hugs. But he was just a wonderful young man.
9/11 was what caused him to actually want to join right now. His dad was the main reason why he wanted to go in the Marines, both the boys, when they were growing up. But that day he came home and begged me to take him to the recruiting office at 15 and sign him up to go in the Marines. He went into the early enrollment program. Went in the day that he left. We took him to the recruiting office on June 19th of 2005. It was my birthday, and we picked his body up from Wright Pat Air Force Base on June 19th of 2008. So it was 3 years to the day.
He was a pain, for sure. As a little brother to him. I remember the morning wake-up calls where I'd be half asleep and I'd hear my door creak open, and the next thing I know, I've got a flying knee to my chest, and then he's out the door. But yeah, he's a jokester, for sure. My favorite picture I think I have from him was when I was in boot camp, because it's just him in general. Like this one right here, this bottom one, where he's somehow manages to do this jump in front of the camera, and his arm just kind of just takes my face out of the picture completely. It's just
On his graduation day, mind you.
yeah. So.
They were really close kids, so I was glad for that.
I would give anything
To have that back.
for one day.
I guess you always wonder, what would he be doing these 11 years later? He went in right after he graduated from high school. We had his combination graduation going into the Marine Corps.
Yeah, if he didn't make a career out of the Marines, it would have been probably law enforcement, I would guess.
He was very good at that, counseling,
Talking
to people. And
I remember when we went to church, and my husband and I went to church in Hagerstown. My husband was also in the Marine Corps and was in the Aleutian Islands when he was in the service. But we asked people to pray for him when he was in Iraq. And this one gentleman said, I'll pray for him, but just and he wrote to him too, I believe. And he said, I just want to shake his hands when he comes home from Iraq. And I said, okay. So I told Leighton that. So he's all dressed up in his dress blues. And my husband and I picked him up and took him to church. And then Wallman's was open at the time. So we took him out to lunch with some of our friends from church. And people come up and thank you for your service. And he said, I'm just so proud, Grandma.
I had gone out with him a few times. We went to Palm Springs a few times with actually one of the guys that was with him, the only survivor from the vehicle. Kevin Colbert. Yeah, so I got to meet a lot of the guys that he was with.
I know one time he was telling me he had to go to Afghanistan, and he told me that, to put it in perspective, that it probably wasn't going to be good, and it was way more dangerous than Iraq and all that. I remember that. The last thing I really remember was just him telling me that, and I hate that that's the last thing I remember from him, that I missed his phone call. Because he would call, when he was in Afghanistan, he'd call from some weird number. And every time I think that's like, and I didn't answer it, but I have his voicemail that he sent me, the last one.
Hey sis, your brother, give me a call with Happy Mother's Day, so I won't get to call you on Sunday, but sorry I missed you again. I'll try to give you a call next time. A decent hour, alright? I love you. Bye.
That's what made it him. That's what made it like, was the jokes and the wet willies and the putting his finger in my nose or whatever.
The last conversation we had, I had to tell him that one of his childhood friends had committed suicide days before. And I sat for a long time thinking, do I tell him or do I not? If I tell him, it might take his head out of the game and something might happen. if I don't tell him, he finds out some other way, he might be mad at me. So I decided to tell him. And then something bad happened because he died that following Saturday. He had a big heart. He was a good kid. He was a really good kid, and he was really funny. Really funny. I mean, he could brighten up a room in a second.
If you needed him, he would be there for you.
He loved his country and died, gave us all for that.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
There are so many people to thank for their help in organizing the Gold Star Family event. Without each and every one of you, this event couldn't have happened. So thank you from the bottom of my heart and the Gold Star family's hearts. You made this an amazingly special day. I also want to thank you for watching Motorcycle Memories Stories from the Road. Please share these videos with your family and friends.